Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is another episode of the Random Guy podcast. I am Steggy, the random guy, or a random guy. I wouldn't say I'm the random guy. Look, I think I figured out what the flourishes mean in Disney Lurkana. I know. Probably see these videos and you're like, dude, Steggy, didn't you just make like a gameplay video? I did just make a gameplay video. And I kind of glossed over the resource system, okay? The resource system. And I figured out that the flourishes are tied to the resource system. I'm just going to dive right in. It's important to note, there is a gentleman by the name of Ryan Miller who works on the cards, the designs, or, you know, the card game design for Disney Lurkana. But do you know what else he did? That's right. The Kaijudo trading card game. He was the lead designer. The Kaijudo trading card game was kind of like an evolution from Duel Masters. They're very similar. I'll put a picture here. You can see it's incredibly similar, you know, to this, but there are some slight differences. And I bring this up because I had mentioned this in my last video. In Duel Masters, you flip your card over to show the one to play this card down here as its resource. So now I have one red resource. That's how I put my mana into play. I could do that once a turn, unless I had a card like Silver Axe here. Silver Axe, I know I have a subpar webcam, but Silver Axe lets me, whenever it attacks, I take the top card of my deck, and I could take it and I flip it over, boom, and I put it in my resource. So again, you know, why bring this up? If you look at the Duel Master, I'm sorry, not the Duel Masters. If you look at the Kaijudo card, you will see it is very similar to this one, to the Duel Masters, but it doesn't have the one on the bottom. And that got me thinking, you know, I've never actually looked up how to play Kaijudo. So I watched a video of how to play Kaijudo. And do you know how they do their resources? I'm going to tell you. So say I wanted to play, it's my turn. I want to play this card. I want to play, you know, Deadly Fire Break Claw. Well, I don't have any resources. So what I do is I take a card from my hand, put it face up down here in my resource pool, and now I have one red resource because it matches the card's color. I can exert this, play it, and now I can play this card because he needs one resource of that color. Do you see what I'm going with this? What if this card is gone to? So, and this card is Captain Hook. I want to play Captain Hook on my first turn. What am I going to do? I'm going to take my Gontu that's in my hand, and I put it down here. Now I have one steel ink, because Gontu is steel, and I can use this steel ink to play my Captain Hook. Awesome. Like, and I think that's what you do. The resources in the deck are the deck, is the deck itself. Like, the resources, they are the deck. It's the deck, you know? So there's not going to be any extra resources because you're going to want to have multiple copies of your cards, because if this is Gontu, I need to know that I have an extra Gontu, because once I put it down here, I cannot play this card. This card is going to be used for a resource, and that's it. Now, I had mentioned flourishes at the start of this video. How do the flourishes come in? Real simple. Let me put these down. I have two different colors here, okay? Two reds, two greens. A Lurkana deck can have up to two colors, and we're going to say as two colors. We have emerald, and we have, no, this is emerald, I'm sorry, ruby, ruby and emerald. I do that a lot. And why we only have two colors in the deck, why we only allowed up to two colors, is because it's just easier to monitor and maintain your resource system, especially for a younger audience. It's just easier to only have to worry about two colors or one color than it is to worry about several colors. So to put this, you know, as an example, if I wanted to play Tinkerbell, say this card is Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is a 3-cost steel card. Now, in order to play Tinkerbell, I'm going to need at least 3 resources. However, only one of those resources is going to have to be steel. So if I had something like this down here, where I have one steel card and then two, say, ruby. I'm playing steel and ruby now. I don't know why I switched it. I'm sorry, I've switched it up here. So I have, you know, my steel, my ruby. So I can exert these three because I have one steel and I have two of anything else. It could be all steel, it could be two steel and one ruby. That'd be fine. But I could not do three ruby because I can't play a steel card with ruby ink. I can't paint a steel colored picture with only red ink. You know what I mean? Gonna have to have at least one of these. So by exerting these three, I can then play. I can play my Tinkerbell. Easy peasy. Now to go back again, why flourishes? Some cards have flourishes, some don't. Let's take. Well, let's do the new Lady Tremaine. Lady Tremaine was just unveiled today, like as I'm making this video. And Lady Tremaine is a 6-cost green card. But she, up in the corner here, she has no flourish. And if we put, you know, say like, we'll put Tinkerbell back. Tinkerbell has to flourish. If a card has to flourish, it means it needs at least one resource of its color to put it into play. I would need at least one steel ink card with two others to play Tinkerbell. If a card does not have a flourish here, that means I can use 6 of any color ink to play this. And you might be thinking, like, wow, I'm not sure about that, you know. Let me put out two examples, two different examples from two different, completely different cards. Let's talk about Magic Mirror. Magic Mirror is just an item card. First of all, and I wasn't even going to mention it, but its cost is 2. It's just 2 in the corner with no flourish. So again, it just costs 2 of any combination of ink you have. You know, I can use two of these red. I can use 2 greens. I can use a green and a red. As long, you know, whatever I use, I can put that into play. So that's cool, but that's not what I was mentioning. I was mentioning its ability to speak. And it says for 4 of the little symbols, 4 of the whatever they are, that can draw a card. But it has no color distinction. It just says 4 symbols. But do you know what those symbols, where those symbols also are? On the top corner of the cards that do not have a flourish. So they have to be similar. They're the same. It's the same image. And then if you also look at cards like Captain Hook and Scar, they do mention the attack of an opposing character, or on Scar's case, it's the attack of an opposing character, but on Hook, he just mentions himself. But there's a symbol for attack. We can see that symbol in the corner. We see the special design for that. So you're like, okay, this picture here, this little symbol ties to the attack on the card. I can see that. They're the same symbol. So when you look at Magic Mirror, you can see that that symbol for the little hexagon is the same symbol for the hexagon that's in the corner of, well, all character cards, but it is very clearly evident in the cards that do not have the flourish around them. And the other card I'd like to mention, and there's a couple we've seen, but I'll say Stitch. Let's mention Stitch, and you might be knowing what I'm going with this, but it's the shift mechanic. You can see under shift, it just says to pay 4 or 3 or however many of the little resources, and you can play that Stitch on top of another Stitch. That means you can play any resource you want. And I think it's also probably tied to like the Stitch, Rockstar Stitch is yellow, but maybe there's like a green Stitch or a red Stitch. So you're going to have 2 different colors in your deck. And if you want to play the Rockstar Stitch, it's kind of, it would be really hard to have all the same color, 3 or 4 yellows to play, to put that Stitch down. Instead, you could just play whatever you want. Now, you can also still use the cards that have the hexagon but no flourish as a resource. So I could still take my lady here. This is my Lady Tremaine. I'll take my Lady Tremaine. I could still, on my first turn, put her down here because she's still a green card. The Flourish, initially I thought the Flourish was only for giving the resource, and that's why some cards like just didn't, but that didn't make any sense. It just means that you can pay that cost with any color ink. You do not need to have just green. But if I play Lady Tremaine down here, I'm still going to get 1 green ink because she's still green, she's still a card. And then I'm able to play anything that costs green on my first turn. If I don't, that's okay. On my second turn, I can play, you know, this, whatever this red card would be. Maybe I drop a Maleficent. I'm playing green and red, you know, and I like my villains or something, and then I'm going to go ahead and play Cruella de Vil, right? So, but I have my red and green or whatever. You see what I'm going. I got my colors. I only need 1 of the matching colors and 1 of anything else. But this Tremaine still gives that color. And I think that's it. That's what it's going to be. And that gives us access to ramp cards, just like this card here. This card is called Silver Axe. This card was actually pretty good. So my webcam's not very good, but Silver Axe says, whenever this creature attacks, you may put the top card of your deck into your mana zone, which was your resource zone. So I could play my Silver Axe, and then I couldn't remember if there was Summoning Sickness in Duel Masters. It's actually been like 18 years or something. Yeah, it's been a long time, maybe longer. Actually, I think it's been like 21 years. Yeah, because I won the tournament. I won the city championship in 2005, and I was 18 years old. So anyway, that's why it doesn't matter, a long time. But we'll say, you know, you put him down when you attack. I can then take a card from the top of my deck and put it down. So if I had been playing a resource every turn, and I had paid these 3 for this guy, well, now I've actually just gained another resource. Good and bad. Good because now I've ramped and I'm able to, you know, on my next turn, instead of only having 4 resources because I played the 4th card, I can actually play this card. Now I have 5 because you can only play 1 a turn. That's going to probably be pretty normal. Now that's good because now I'm able to play bigger, like higher costed cards faster, but I don't get to choose what I flip over. It's completely random. So if this is the case, it's actually very, very beneficial to have multiple copies of cards in your deck. So like if you wanted to play Maleficent Monstrous Dragon in your Ruby deck, but kind of only have it like as a tech card, and I have videos I have a video in the works discussing some of this stuff, but you're gonna want 2 copies because you do not want that card to hit your mana zone and you can't use it anymore, because once they're down here, they are stuck here. There are some cards that do get rid of cards in your opponent's mana zone, so they could go to your graveyard. So like if my mana zone looked like this and my opponent played an action card or something to destroy this card, now I cannot play any of my green cards because I don't have the green mana down here. So that's something to consider and keep an eye out for. But also, because of Lady Tremaine, we are able to get cards out of the graveyard. So you got to be careful what you put in and you know what you do. So I think it's starting to show a little bit more depth, and you know, which I like. So I made this video because I didn't think I could articulate my thoughts in the Lorcana Discord properly without, like, say, spamming it. Plus I wanted to use some pictures and another little demonstration. So I'm just very excited. I'm pretty sure this is how it's going to work. Like it fits. I think it fits the theme, and I think it works pretty well. And you know, the cards we've seen without the Flourish, we've seen Magic Mirror, which is an item card, and I think that being able to play that for any of your resources makes sense. That just makes sense to me. It's like a generic, like what they would consider like colorless, or you know, like white ink. I don't know. You could just use whatever you want to play it. So we've seen that. We just saw the new Lady Tremaine. We did see Dragonfire. Now Dragonfire, I think has a kind of a generic effect. It's not something like, I'm sure we'll see other cards and other colors that do a similar thing. So maybe, you know, having it be colorless is fine. Plus it's a little bit more costly, which might make it easier to play. But we have also seen Healing Glow, which does cost 1 amber. Now, that healing aspect could be tied to the amber color, which is why you would need amber ink to play that. That is my guess. It's also a, you know, a lower costed card. Plus, it's able to keep some of your characters in play. So it might be one of those, well, you're going to need the appropriate ink for this card, you know, in order to play it. It is only 1, but it could really help in the early game, I suppose, to keep a character alive. And maybe even later in the game to avoid some lethal damage. So that one's like, you know, it's either way. It's like, do all action cards are generic or not? But I can see some being and some not. We've seen the Hades. Hades is also a generic cost in the corner. I believe he is there because, one, he does cost a lot. It might also fit his theme as well, being like the king. You could just pay whatever you want to put him into play. But it could be possible that maybe, you know, yellow isn't very good at generating resources. Maybe, you know, other colors are. I'm not sure. But my guess is that just because he's a higher costed character and he's just a villain, and you can have so many different villains, he doesn't really like fit a certain like type. You just want his body, you don't necessarily want his color. So that's my guess. It could also be just some cards, you know, are going to have the flourish and some aren't, and that's totally fine. You know, it's just going to be kind of random, because you have Maleficent, which is like, you know, a huge card, 9 cost, you know, banishes something when it comes into play, but it doesn't have, I mean, it does have a flourish, so it's like you're going to need red, but it does fit the theme. But the same argument, you know, doesn't Dragonfire also fit the theme? So I'm going to say that just some cards have it and some don't, and that's just how it is. Just some are going to be colorless, and you can do whatever you want with how you pay them, and some don't. Some are going to need their appropriate colors in order to get into play. So yeah, you know, very quick recap. If it has the flourish in the corner, that means you need at least 1 color of the card in your resource pool here in order to play it. We're going to be taking cards from our hands once per turn, putting them down into a special zone like this, and generating our resources. And, you know, once we have so many, we can play our cards, and, you know, then we can interact. And if it has the flourish, again, we're going to need the color, appropriate colors to play it. So red, I'm going to need at least 1 red. But if it doesn't have the flourish, then I only need the appropriate resources. So if this is a, you know, a 3 cost card with no flourish up here, I can just use 3 of any of my resources to put it into play. And again, that's my guess. And the reason why some have flourishes and some don't, is just some have flourishes and some don't. I think it's just as simple. I think that could just be it. And you know, that's my guess. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about this. It does tie into my previous video, the one I made earlier this week about gameplay, how you can, you know, send your people out on a challenge, and you know, they're exerted, or you can challenge your opponent's exerted characters to do that on your turn. You know, you can play your cards, and you know, again, a lot of my experience is in Duel Masters. I played a lot of Duel Masters. I really liked it, and I can see similarities now in this game that are like Duel Masters. And a gentleman from Duel Masters in Kaijudo is working on Disney Lorcana, so I think there's some correlation there, and I think there might be something there. So again, those are my thoughts, and I know it's like a nearly, you know, 20-minute video, and I just feel like I couldn't put this into words without spamming the chat. So I just wanted to put this out there. This is how I think it's going to be done, and I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about it. So I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. It's just, I just love the ramble. So I'm just gonna end the video. Stay safe out there, make good decisions, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.